the thing that has consistently given me the biggest sense of purpose and meaning is making a difference. And
Mm.
so now I'm I have the advantage of a whole bunch of years I can look back and learn from some of the things I did. And I can say, yeah, okay, so when I did that, that was me wanting to make a difference, or that was me wanting to help somebody.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our goal is to inspire you to live your best audacious life ever. It's always a pleasure to be here sharing insights and conversations that will empower you to embrace boldness in every aspect of your life. I truly appreciate you for taking time out of your day to join us, and hope you leave feeling motivated and ready to take on the world. Now, imagine you're tending to a beautiful garden. Each plant represents a different aspect of your life, your relationships, career, and personal growth. Now, picture the weeds that easily can invade this garden, negativity and complaining. If you allow them to take root, they choke the life out of your plants, preventing them from thriving. Instead, by focusing on positive energy and nurturing your garden with encouragement and growth, you can create a flourishing sanctuary. Now, just as a garden requires regular care and attention, so too do our lives need a commitment to positivity and growth. In today's episode, our guest, Larry Easto, eloquently discusses the significance of goal setting and planning in business. He likens it to navigating a roadmap. While your destination is set, the journey often requires a regular course corrections. Just as a driver must adjust the route based on traffic or detours, so must we be willing to adapt our plans in response to life's challenges. Larry also frames failure as a valuable learning experience rather than a setback. He emphasizes that growth often comes from our mistakes, reminding us that each mishap is an opportunity to learn and evolve. By reframing our view of failure, we can cultivate resilience and ultimately thrive in our endeavors. Larry is a seasoned consultant, author, and speaker with over 40 years of experience in strategic planning, marketing, and personal development. His unique approach combines practical insights with a deep understanding of human behavior, making him an invaluable resource for professionals looking to elevate their businesses and personal lives. His extensive background in helping individuals on business set and achieve their goals makes him the perfect guest for our discussion today. His insights into planning and you know, again, when you think about the insights he can offer around planning and personal growth and the importance of positive mindset, they're not only relevant but essential for anyone looking to live an audacious life. So now that we've got the table all set, let's turn to our conversation with Larry. Enjoy. Hey, Larry, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for making the time to be here. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, it's a joy. Yeah, this is a slow time of year, so it's nice to have fun things to look forward to. So yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I get a thrill or such a charge of being able to engage in conversations that, like Larry, for me, for example, the idea that, you and I can engage in a dialogue and conversation over whatever, wherever it goes, and someone could be eavesdropping, overhearing, listening, and they can take something from what we talk about, maybe it helps them. Like, that's awesome.
Oh, it truly is. It truly is. Um, I love running a business and I love all those kinds of things, but I think bottom line is I really like making a difference. And
Mm.
if I know this is really simplistic and probably idealistic, but if something I do makes a difference to one person, it's wow, yeah, that's why I'm here. That's exactly why I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. Out of curiosity, the did it take you a while to figure out what is it like? So you want to make a difference? How long did it take you to figure that out?
It's very much a work in progress. No, it's funny because I didn't realize it at the time, but when I look back at my career, I think the first real job, the first job, for lack of a better term, that I had that I really experienced making a difference was as a camp counselor, as a teenage camp counselor.
Ah,
and at the time I didn't realize what was going on, but it really felt good to help kids learn to swim or learn to play basketball or baseball or whatever. And it wasn't until I guess probably within the past, I would think 5 to 10 years, that I really started to take a look at my lifetime experience and
Yeah.
figure out what it means, that I realized that has been a consistent element of what I've done.
Mm.
All of the paid gigs I've had, all the businesses I've run and those kinds of activities, the thing that has consistently given me the biggest sense of purpose and meaning is making a difference. And
Mm.
so now I'm I have the advantage of a whole bunch of years I can look back and learn from some of the things I did. And I can say, yeah, okay, so when I did that, that was me wanting to make a difference, or that was me wanting to help somebody. And it's kind of funny because when I was like 3 or 4 years old, I wanted to be a garbage man. And I,
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, now when I look back, I realized, okay, that's part of my desire to maintain
Yes.
order.
Yeah.
That's part of who I am in keeping things orderly. And so it's kind of a funny little wrinkle, but again, with the advantage of hindsight, so many things at the time were just really, what the heck? Now it just kind of makes so much sense.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when you stop and kind of look back and really analyze it, you can see the connections that there always were there, right? They're always
Oh
there
yeah.
and they always existed. It just maybe wasn't in your purview to see it at that time, but yeah, it does reveal itself eventually. So that's awesome to
Oh
hear.
yeah, and once it does, once and you use whatever word you want, but once our purpose or our reason for being or passion or whatever, once we connect with that, then we can do more of it
Sure.
and less of the things that drag us down.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can focus on the things that make us feel good, generate more energy, make a difference, and it's kind of fun.
So Larry, let's fill our audience in a little bit about the work that you do because you sort of alluded to a number of things over your career that in terms of being able to provide assistance and services and help to others. You've got a legal background as a lawyer. You've done some coaching, some writing, training, so a bunch of things, but all under that vein of helping others. And so perhaps maybe kind of a starting point, we could give our audience just kind of an overview of sort of what I was gonna say what got you to the point that you're at now, but you've got 40 years of a journey.
Yeah. And the best is yet to come.
I
Um,
love it.
um, for most of my life, for most of my, I guess, early life, I made a lot of decisions by default.
Mhm.
Um, I have to, quite comfortable admitting that I went to university by default. I didn't know what else I wanted to do, so seemed to be a pretty good thing to do.
Mhm.
Went to law school by default because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Seemed to be a pretty good thing to do. Qualified as a lawyer because I invested the time and money in it, so let's do it. But I didn't practice law right out of qualification. I did something else that was more interesting and more fun. I did community development. Worked for the what was then called the Addiction Research Foundation. So did community development to help communities respond to drug crisis.
Mhm.
And after a disagreement with a boss, I decided to practice law. And after a disagreement with another boss, I changed law firms. And after a disagreement with another boss, I started my own law practice, not because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I wanted the freedom to serve clients the way I thought they deserved to be served. And so that's why I started my own business. And when I started my law practice, that's when I really started to think seriously about things like planning, goal setting, routines, and all that kind of thing. And I found that I really enjoyed planning. Planning was something that I was very comfortable at. It came naturally to me, so I just gravitated to it. So planning led to all sorts of things. When I left law, I did a lot of strategic planning. I went to a workshop in terms of marketing, how to market your services as a consultant, and the instructor said, if you really want to do well as a consultant, you got to write a book. And I thought, oh yeah, that sounds great. So he did a 15-minute overview on how to write a book, and I was sold. I just sold on writing a book. And I
Mhm.
wrote my first book with help from family, and a friend of mine was a printer, and he helped me put it together. And it felt so good when I wrote the book, just so good. And it's funny because when I wrote the book, I'm laughingly saying, when I grow up, I think maybe I'll be a writer. And my friend said, "Why bother?" And I didn't know whether they meant why bother growing up or why bother being a writer. But it was such a joy. And so that was a breakthrough for me, being able to communicate my ideas. And I had somebody picked up a copy of my book, and it was instrumental in helping this person change jobs. He was working as a clerk for a large organization, but he really wanted to be a financial planner. And he read my first book and was so inspired by it that he qualified as a financial planner and is now teaching at a community college. And that feels really, really good. And so from there, I wrote a whole bunch of other books. I'd rather write than anything else. So if I get frustrated, I start writing. And so that's where it's moved along. About, gosh, 15, 20 years ago, I took a course in adult learning, and that was another breakthrough moment, learning how to help adults learn. You know, we talk about learning from experience, but nobody tells us how to learn from experience. Yeah, experience is the great teacher, but how do we learn from it? So I took this course in experiential learning, which is how most adults learn.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it's just been absolutely glorious. Everything I've done, I now realize that everything I've done not only has had the helping element, but it's been more of a facilitative than an instructional. When I was practicing, clients would say to me, "What should I do?" And I'd say, "Well, it's your issue. You know, I will help you make the right decision. I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's your responsibility to take whatever, and we'll talk about different options and the consequences, but that's what I would do." And even as a coach and a consultant, I refuse to take other people's decisions. I mean, I sometimes have trouble making my own decisions. So it's always been more facilitative than instructional.
Mm-hmm.
And my most recent book, how to succeed in your professional service business, the same kind of thing. It's intended for people who would rather serve clients than run a business. So I've tried to demystify the whole business jargon and help them understand what they're really good at, what they're really best at, what they like doing. So instead of being a one size fits all solutions, it's all about, well, what are you really good at? What do you love doing? What do and all these kinds of things. So it's a combination motivational, instructional kind of thing. I don't like the word motivation because it's got a lot of pejorative feelings to it, but I'd rather empower people than tell them what to do.
I love it.
And so that's been the constant thread throughout. And it's just, I love music and I love jazz. And one of my favorite songs is "The Best Is Yet to Come." And I've kind of adopted that as my own song, because every time I turn around, I'm learning something new and I'm going, wow, I can do so much more with this, or I can do this with that. And it's more and more exciting.
There's an expression I heard a while back, and I coined it as often as I can. And life gets better the better life gets. So
Oh, absolutely,
I truly think it is, because if you're paying attention to lessons as you're moving through life, and you're picking up these things and you're applying them, right? So it's not just get this information. You're doing something with this information, putting it into practice, right? It just builds. You're building momentum, and things do get better and better.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
wonderful.
Absolutely.
I love the idea of sort of keying in on your strengths. I really, really do. The idea of well, first of all, being clear on what your strengths are, because that's the starting point, right? Being clear what your strengths are, and then being able to put those into practice, because it's almost fulfilling a personal mission to a certain degree, if you get what I mean.
Absolutely.
And then when you do that in the service of others, oh my gosh, that's a game changer.
Oh yeah. And it's interesting, when early on in my consulting stage of my career, I worked with a really experienced consultant, and I learned a lot from him. And one of the things I learned early on was the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And the thing is that is not just for businesses. It works just as well for individuals. And it's magic, because you identify what your strengths are and recognize what your weaknesses are. And then the issue is, okay, so how do I use these strengths to overcome the weaknesses? And then to take it a couple of steps further, how do I use these strengths to take advantage of these opportunities? Or how do I use these strengths to offset these threats.
Right.
So it's not just corporate, it's not just organization, it's just an ideal tool for personal growth, personal development, personal decision making.
Yeah. No,
And to
you're
build
right.
on our strengths. I mean,
Yeah.
our strengths, our strengths weren't, we didn't get our strengths so we can lift more weight or whatever. We got them to serve a purpose. And if we can figure out the purpose of that, of why we have this strength, we're off and running.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I do like the idea of using your strengths to shore up your weaknesses. And really what it also I think is it's a good exercise. Why is a good exercise to go through? It gives you the opportunity to be able to figure out what you need to bring in house, right? Or
Oh, sure.
or what outside resources you need to bring to support you or
Exactly.
whatever. And again, this is whether we're talking about me individually or my corporation. Like, what can I
Sure.
use on the outside to support my mission of where I'm going? And
Oh, yeah.
there's a piece of that although I don't think it's necessarily spelled out in the SWOT analysis per se, but the piece of being able to strengthen your weaknesses, right? Because that is a component of it. Although it's not directly spelled out in SWOT,
Oh,
but
sure.
yeah,
Sure.
right. But certainly the idea of, okay, so these areas I'm not strong in. I can't do this. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a numbers guy, right? So what do we do? Well,
Yeah.
we can bring in an accountant to figure it out, or maybe there's a way I can learn and gain some insight
Yeah.
and knowledge to help strengthen that area as well too. But yeah, but along the veins of just self-improvement, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There's really two ways of dealing with weaknesses. One is grow to your strength and hire to your weakness. So once we start to grow to our strengths, it's kind of like floating a boat. It pulls everything else up with it.
That's yeah.
And also stay in your lane. Do what you do best and delegate the rest.
Mm,
And
mm.
I'm not good at numbers. I am just not good at numbers. I've got a great financial planner, so I don't need to be good at numbers.
That's right.
Pass that on to them. Let
That's
them do
right.
that.
That's
And
right.
they're not good at what I do. So long ago I gave up trying to be all things to all people. Like like many people, I've got a whole variety of gifts, and I'm fairly good at a number of things. And I would try a number of things, but at one stage, when I was practicing law, this was in rural Ontario, and the big thing in the wintertime was curling, and I loved curling. I absolutely loved curling. So I'd be curling 2 nights a week, and people were saying, "Gee, Larry, you're really good. Why don't you become a skip?" And I'm thinking, so what do I have to do? And they, well, you have to curl 4 nights a week. And I'm thinking, no, there's too many other things I really like doing.
Right.
And so for a while, and again, as in your 20s or 30s, I mean, everything. Yeah. When you're 24 or 25, there's not a question anywhere you don't know or nothing you can do. But as we mature, it's I am really, really good at A, but I suck at B. So I'm not doing any B. I'm not doing B anymore. Why bother? Why give yourself grief? So it's a case of, again, leveraging the strengths, doing what we do best, and let others do the rest.
The other part about the strength conversation that I appreciate is that when you lean into your strengths, you actually can create momentum. So if you got 10 tasks that you want to do, and 8 of them you love, the 2 you don't want to do because they're not as favorite, or you don't enjoy
Right,
them, you
right.
don't
Yeah,
appreciate them the same way,
yeah.
right? I just dive into the stuff I like, right? Get
Oh,
that,
yeah, yeah.
and that creates that momentum, and that gets you going, and and you get to the last two. Okay, fine. Let's try
Yeah,
it.
okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's, I've got on my desk beside me, I've got a floating to-do list. A couple weeks from now, we're going away on holidays, and there's a bunch of things I want to get done before I go. So I have basically set up a spreadsheet of things I want to do, and there's some things in there I don't want to do, but I know I have to.
Yes.
So, after doing 2 or 3 want tos and going, yeah, that feels great. This bad one isn't so bad. And when I get into it, it's not as bad as I was making it out to be.
Yeah.
It was in my head I was making it
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. We do it all the time, don't we?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I think I'm beginning to think that I can't is code word for I won't or I don't want to.
Mm, that's right. That's right. Because you absolutely we absolutely can.
Oh
We just
yeah.
don't
Yeah. I mean,
want
I
to.
can't do brain surgery, but there's most routine kinds of life skills, although we may not like doing them, we can do them.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. So the work, just so maybe some context for our audience, the work that you do with businesses is regarding allowing them to elevate their brands or to scale their business or to grow their bottom line. Is that sort of in a nutshell, or?
That's what it has been. I've concentrated mostly, it started out focusing on strategic planning, and then from strategic planning, I got into marketing. And from marketing, I got into what I'm calling authentic marketing, which is leveraging our strengths, leveraging our true best self.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I'm euphemistically calling it my legacy project right now. That I'm looking back and trying to make sense of some of the things I did. So I'm not actively looking for one-on-one clients. I mean, if somebody comes up with a project that is interesting and can use my resources and we all learn a benefit, by all means, but I'm not, not doing the routine kinds and not doing the routine things. I wrote, it's funny because after the move downtown, I was inspired to write a book. So I started working on a book, and the book grew to 2 books. And then I'm thinking, holy cow, I got 2 books. What am I going to do with them? So then I decided, okay, I'm going to publish 1 book. So this was the How to Succeed in Your Professional Service Business. And the reason I did that is because not everybody likes to run a business. And so I wanted to demystify it, because I wanted to make it easier for professionals to market their services. But I had all sorts of information, all sorts of really good information left over that I didn't know what to do with. I mean, I've got, all this content here. So I thought, why not? So I created a 12-lesson video course out of the leftover information. And it's a transformation course. And it was kind of strategic, because I thought the invitation, I thought the transformational information was too good to keep it just for professionals, just for self-employment people. Right. So it's just, anybody now, how to get from where you are to where you want to be. So I just, that video course is just in the final stages of being released. It'll be available from early 2025 on. And it's a self-guided progress through, deciding what you want to do, dipping into the law of attraction and dipping into some experiential learning, all those kinds of things, by way of sharing some of my experience. And I still have content left over. So I did another book. So I've got another book called New Beginnings, New Opportunities, which is leftover content. And that's going to be a freebie. That's going to be available on my website. But the point there is this book started during the pandemic. Sure. And at that time, I wanted to help people survive the pandemic, not health-wise, but businesses survive and thrive once it was over. But then I realized that lots of people want to make changes. So let's just use this as a transformation book. So that book, that's a freebie available on my website. And it's, so I've just about run out of books.
Sorry there. 1 second. Excuse me. No that tickle won't go away. No, I love the fact that you are maximizing content you have and creating and continually create. And I would say it's interesting because through that process, you're probably learning even more lessons or learning new things as you go along.
Oh, hell yes. It's interesting because I did a podcast. I guess I did it about a month ago. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, I was invited to be a speaker at an event for neurodivergent entrepreneurs. And I thought, neurodivergent, what in Lord's name does that mean? Well, my wife is a psychologist, so she kind of explained it to me what it meant. So I thought, what have I got to say to these people? And then I realized, wait a minute, I am HSP, highly sensitive person. 20 to 30% of the population is HSP. Okay. HSP is neurodivergent. Okay. Oh. So this is way cool. So what, how does this HSP thing work with business? So I did some search, podcasts all over the place on the topic of HSP in business. I'm going, wow, this isn't a door. This is a whole new building I didn't know about.
Yes. Yeah.
And so now I can put this together. And again, tighten, refine the lens looking back. Now that I realize, now that I am embracing my neurodivergency, I can look back and see why I did some of the things I did.
Right.
So it's
Right.
really exciting.
Right. Right.
And it's just, every day is a new excitement. And yeah, I keep saying that I feel like I've just started university with all the excitement, but I've got 60 years experience to play with. I mean, that's a pretty nice position to be in.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful one. It's a wonderful one. I'd like to go back and it's funny. I mean, you want to ask a question, but you know the answer, but you ask anyways. And I really that question is around goal setting and how important that is for businesses. I would say that I would say goal setting or vision, your direction of where you want to go, whatever you want to call that, right? But in terms of I wonder if you could speak to sort of the significance of why companies, businesses need to be very, very clear on what their path forward looks like.
Oh, that's a great question. A couple of things come to mind. One is Alice in Wonderland. Wasn't the Cheshire Cat said if you don't know where you're going, if you don't care where you're going, anywhere will do.
Right.
And there's the other expression that if you do what you've always done, you're going to get the results you've always gotten.
Mm,
Well, take a look outside. Nature grows. Nature, growth is a natural kind of a thing. The
right.
the trees and the grass and everything in nature, the growth thing has been wired in. We have it wired in, I think, as well, but we have been so conditioned to be careful, don't do this, or you should do this, you should do the other thing that I think there's a lot of mindsets that for better or for worse are interfering with the growth thing.
Right.
For me, it's just, as a planning geek and as a love planning and growing, it is just such a natural kind of a thing. You think about NASA and the moonshots. Okay, so they had a flight plan to get their rockets to the moon, but they made thousands of mid-course corrections.
Sure.
Without the flight plan, what would they have done?
Right.
And when you're flying somewhere, these guys they've all got flight plans. So they think, okay, I'm going to go and get an airplane and go to Panama City.
That's
Well,
right.
unless you got a map, how the hell are you going to get there? There's no direct route. So it is so absolutely essential.
Yeah.
And in earlier times, in gentler times, like when I think back to when I was practicing law, when I started practicing, you didn't really need a plan. You just needed to be nice. Schmooze,
Right.
meet a lot of people and they will come to you. Well, that was then. This is
Yeah.
now. I mean, it's still important to meet a lot of people, but you have to have a plan in terms of what you're doing, or you're going to be spending so much time wandering in the wilderness. And hey, if that's what people want to do, so be it.
Right.
But don't
Right.
complain about not getting where if you choose not to plan.
That's right. That's right. And so the two are very much correlated, right? Planning and your final destination.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, I think a part, and you sort of talked about, the course correction, and I think what's important for individuals and businesses to understand is that it's okay to pivot. It's okay to change. It's okay to
Oh, yeah,
refocus because there's I think there's very few instances in life where you can say it's going to be here and point B will be there, and that's it. Like nothing will deviate from that. I mean, there's very few things. Life is life. Expression, life will life us, right? And so we've got to be able to adjust,
exactly.
pivot, change as we
Exactly.
go. And it's not. I guess my point is, it's not a bad thing.
Oh no. And with a plan and something happens that you don't expect, it doesn't mean you leave the plan. It means your priority is to get back on plan. What do we
Mm,
have to do to get back on plan? Not, what do we do now? It's what you
right,
do now is get back on plan.
right, 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 right. The a big part of this podcast, again, this is the Audacious Living Podcast. We encourage individuals to live audaciously, and a big part of that is the first step. And I think that first step is where people get caught up the most. And I've always, one of the strategies I talk with the individuals about a lot is celebrating your accomplishments, taking track of you look at your milestones, look at the things that got you to where you are now. So that next step is inevitable because there's other series of steps that you've taken to get you to where you're at now. So why not continue the momentum? And I think in the world of entrepreneurism, I think that's a great strategy approach because you think about starting a business from scratch, right? Maybe
Right,
it's
right.
a new industry, or perhaps, or maybe not a new industry, but starting and how and all the doubts and the suspicions and the questions you had as to whether or not it made sense, or there's this thing called the imposter syndrome. Or what do you think? Who said you could do this? Who gave you the authority to think you have the right to open a business in this field? And so I think there's much to be said about not only just certainly taking that first step, getting started, but continue that momentum by remembering the good stuff that you did.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that, and I know that I get involved in this. I get involved in a new project, and I get so excited about what I'm doing and what I want to do
Right.
that I overwhelm myself with the to-dos, which is why I've moved to a detailed list here. For me, it's a case of I two things. One is to focus on one thing at a time
I love it.
rather than hitting a to-do list of 100 items all at once. What is one thing I can do right now that will get me to where I want to be?
Yep.
And that's not usually a huge step, but it's all these little one things add up a lot. And the second thing is that our cars need downtime, computers need downtime. As human beings, we need downtime. And I find that when I am overwhelmed or I'm frustrated or things aren't working out for me, it's just time out. Just take a time out.
Yeah.
I'll go and talk to a tree, or I'll commune with a squirrel or something. But it's just, the point there is to get out of the situation
Yes.
and let the universe help me.
Yes.
Let me calm down, let
Yes.
me open my brain to what's out there.
Yeah.
And so often we just, and I'm just guilty of this as the next person. I get so excited about what I'm doing. The idea of stopping is just totally repugnant.
Right.
But then I have to say, whoa, 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 whoa. Did you just kind of slow down a little bit? Maybe something better will come.
Hmm.
And it usually does.
Yeah, yeah, and there's I think there's great value in that slowing down or stopping. It just gives you an opportunity, just to catch your breath, right?
Exactly,
Just to
exactly,
catch your
exactly.
breath
Oh
and
yeah,
slow things
yeah,
down, and then how many times there's this thing that you're looking for is right in front of you. Or you think of someone with the glasses on the top of
yeah,
their head, and they're looking all over for their glasses,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
When they stop, they're like, wait a second, and oh, there they
yeah.
are. And it's the
Oh yeah,
same kind of thing.
yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I absolutely. So Larry, first off, this has just been a phenomenal conversation because I think what it does, it really highlights much of what we talk about on this podcast, right? The encouragement of taking that first step and being bold in your actions and again, being audacious. The last piece I just wanted to ask about and maybe touch on is a conversation around failure. Um, People have sorts of different schools of thoughts on it. The idea of failing is enough for people not to take that first step for many, right? Like, I don't want to take that first step because I might fail, right? But what if you succeed? I think you kind of forget the other side of that. But there are, I oftentimes will talk about the fact that there are, so first off, when you start anything brand new that you've never done before, you need to accept the fact that you might suck at it and you might not be good, right? So you got to give yourself some grace that you may not be good at coming out the gate. But you put that to the side for a moment. I think if you take a moment and understand that if you start some things, there's one of two options. You'll achieve your mark, which is fantastic. That was a point of starting, or you'll learn how not to do it the next time around. Right?
Yep,
You
yep,
learned lessons, you picked up some
yeah,
insights,
yeah.
you gained some knowledge, some experiences. That can't be a bad thing.
Oh yeah, and when we stop and think about some of the things that we as individuals have learned, I don't know of too many people who've gotten onto a bicycle and immediately ridden it without falling. I don't know of anybody who has jumped into a bunch of water and immediately had the beautiful breaststroke or backstroke. Yeah,
Right.
so we take a look at some of the things that we learned as kids. It wasn't easy, but we did it. we were watching people skate a few weeks ago at City Hall, and watching the kids fall all over the place and think that those kids are going to be really good skaters.
That's right. That's right.
And
Here they come.
watching some of the newcomers to Canada and to
Yes.
skating, really working at it.
Yeah.
And okay, it's going to hurt. You're going to fall. And as adults, it probably hurts us more than kids. But failure is just an opportunity to learn, really.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And for people, I don't know who it was. Somebody once said that the only people that don't make mistakes are the people who don't do anything.
Right.
And yeah, so I've long ago, it doesn't feel good. I mean, I don't like admitting to some of the mistakes I've made, and many of them I wish I hadn't,
Sure.
but they did, and it's all part of the learning process.
That's right. That's right. Right.
You know, if I make the mistake again, I've really messed up. But if I've learned from it,
That's it.
bingo.
There's an expression at the other I'll coin sometimes, and you don't truly make a mistake until you walk away from an experience without the lesson.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the mistake, is doing something dumb and not learning from it.
I like that. Doing it dumb. You don't sugarcoat it, right? Just doing it dumb. That's awesome.
It's funny. I like simple words, and I don't like pretentious words and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And as a lawyer, I would explain something to somebody and they'd say, "Is that all there is to it?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And they'd say, "Well, what about all the where in and here and after?" I say, "Oh, that's bullshit. This is what it's about."
That's funny. That's funny. Larry, this has been such a phenomenal time. I really appreciate
Oh, it has been fun. It's
the
been fun.
insights, and I think that I really just love your practical, simple approach to the concept of growth and development, getting better and success. Because all these things that you've talked about that's the direction that we're pointing in. So I really want to appreciate you, express my appreciation for you doing that. For our listeners that want to connect with you, learn more about you, or check out one of your books or your upcoming books, where can we send them?
Two best places. One is LinkedIn. I've got a very strong profile on LinkedIn. There's several hundred articles there. I usually do 3 a week.
Wow.
And the other is my website, LarryEasto.com. It's constantly in a state of flux. I can't understand that.
Isn't that life? Isn't that life, man?
Yeah. But what I've done with the website, and I'm kind of proud of this, instead of being another information dump, I've set it up so that it's more of a sequential problem solving thing. If you want
Okay.
this, go here. If you want this, go
Lovely.
here. And if you want
Lovely.
this, go here. And at the bottom of the website, there's even 2 thank you gifts for people that go after hearing this podcast. One is a book for self-employed professionals. It's 26 ways for service professionals to get new business, and that's a free download. No email address required. It's just an opportunity for me to say thank you for listening and thank you for being here. And the other one is my New Business, New Opportunities book, which will also be available free. And this is a nice little 94-page book that helps guide through the transformation process without a lot of highfalutin talk. It's just kind of real conversation, and just some stories, and just it's like you and I talking. It's just I tell stories of different things in there and offer suggestions, and very engaging. They're both available free on the website. So instead of dumping a whole bunch of information that nobody's going to bother with, I've set it up so that there's different question and answers, and hopefully somebody will, hopefully people benefit from it. And best contact is either LinkedIn or the website. I'm always open to new opportunities, and if somebody thinks, hey, my skills will match well with theirs, and we can do something else, let's talk.
Love it. I love it. Larry, this has been fantastic. I appreciate the time, like I said. Congrats on all the great work, and definitely keep it going, my friend.
Oh, thanks. This was fun. This was a fun way to spend kind of a quiet. This time of year, I always do a lot of planning, so it's fun to do some real conversation rather than just the planning and organizing. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It really was fun.
Be well, Larry.
Take care.
Back we're here on the podcast, one of the main points that, I took away from my conversation with Larry is the idea that our strengths should guide our actions and decisions. As he shared, identifying our strengths allows us to focus on what we do best and seek support for what we don't. This is not just a business strategy, it's a life philosophy. And I so loved how Larry illuminated the path to personal growth through self-awareness and goal setting, reminding us that every step we take, whether a success or a failure, brings us closer to our authentic selves. I encourage all of you to connect with Larry directly. You can find him on LinkedIn and visit his website, LarryEasto.com, where you can explore his resources and further insights. We're going to make sure that all the contact details are located in the show notes below. And, as a special offer, Larry's offering to our listeners a free downloadable resource titled 26 Ways for Service Professionals to Get New Businesses, which you can find on his website. And additionally, he's got a book, New Beginnings, New Opportunities. That's also going to be available for free download. Again, providing the insights and helping people to transform. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. I hope you found inspiration in our conversation and ready to embrace your own audacious journey. If you've enjoyed the episode, please take a moment to like, follow, subscribe, and share if you haven't already done so, because that is how we grow this podcast to reach even more listeners. Remember, living audaciously starts with you. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.